Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC. Today's piece of content, it's been a very flashlight heavy March and April, which has been actually really nice because I've seen quite a breadth of different things from a lot of different companies. But what we're here today to look at is the SP35T from Sofirn. Now Sofirn, for me, are hitting so many tick boxes because of their kind of outlook on getting you features within lights that you actually want, but not breaking the bank to do them. I think if you're after a tactical light that you can use either for a tactical reason or you want to use this for EDC, this has the ability to be able to switch between both of those, this might be one for you. So let's take a closer look. Really quick look at the box. Sofirn branding, it's reasonably nice, but at the end of the day it is simply just a box. Gives you very minimal information on here other than the LED and the temperature of the LED, of the actual light itself, and then a little bit of product information. Inside here, let's quickly open this. I keep getting this stuck. I'm just gonna have to rip it. So on the inside, you get the usual kind of things. Sorry, I just thought there was something in there. So you get a lanyard and some additional plastic rubber gaskets. You also get a reasonably decent, actually, USB-C charge cable, which is quite nice. And then you've also got a clip. The clip, hopefully, as you can see, is removable. So there it is when it's on, and there it is when it's off. Generally, for lights with this kind of size, this kind of form factor, I generally tend to take the clips off. You don't get a sleeve with this, so if this is something that you are intending to keep on your waist, in a truck, in a bag, maybe you are your emergency services, then you have to have your own sleeve or your own holster for this. As we usually do, so we'll go into some measurements, we'll have a look at the materials, and then we'll have a look at the features of the light. And I would say that this is a reasonably feature-rich light, which I think is very impressive. So as far as your sizes is concerned, it's a fairly standard size for this style kind of tactical light. So the full length of this comes in at 139 millimeters, and the width of it at its thickest, which really would be kind of towards the head bit here, you will see that it does taper, the barrel of the light does taper down ever so slightly, where this kind of center bit is 28 millimeters. As far as the weight of this is concerned, it comes in at 87 grams. Now a lot of that is down to the construction of this. This is crafted from aerospace aluminium, which a lot of these lights are made from, which again is great that it continues with that. So it's made from T6, well it's 6061 T6 aluminium, and it is also anodized for this black color. Not too sure, I probably should have checked if there are any other colors, but the version that I have here, hopefully you can see, this is the black version. Very tough. As far as the IP rating for this is concerned, it's rated at X8. No, sorry, X8. Sorry, I got the numbers wrong for a second there. Usually it's dust and water. The dust would be the first number, but it's an X, so it's not been tested for dust. But testing for water, it's got an 8, which is the highest that you can get for consumer electronics. But it also means that this can be dropped from roughly 1.5 meters, and it should be able to sustain that drop. It can also be submerged in up to 2 meters worth of water, and then when it comes out again, it should continue to work as usual, or as you'd expect before you dropped it in that water. LED here on the end, it is a single LED, nice large one in there, and hopefully you'll be able to see if I start to move this around like that. So you have a reasonably deep reflector on there, which is great because this does help to help it to throw some of that light out. But it's an orange peel reflector, so it really does help to diffuse that. You do get a slight warm spot with it. Actually, no, I'll take that back. You definitely get a warm spot with this. But again, that orange peel diffuser really helps to kind of make sure that that light gets spread out equally over a nice area. A little warning that it may get hot. Now this does have an internal temperature regulator on here, which is part of their, it's either the ART or whatever I'll put it here. I can't quite remember at the moment. So when we talk about with other lights where they have kickdowns after a certain amount of time, instead this uses a technology inside that regulates the heat. So once the heat within this gets to a certain temperature, it will then kick down to preserve the life of this. But what that does mean is, rather than me being able to say it will stay on turbo for 3 minutes and then drop down to X, if you're using this in the middle of the Sahara during the day, which would be a strange place to use a torch during the day, and it's very warm with the ambient temperature, then you'll get less time because the internal circuitry will manage that temperature more. If you're in the north of Sweden in the middle of the winter, where it's very cold and the ambient temperature around this is very cold, then you'll probably get more out of this, which will make sense a little bit when we start to have a look at the length of light, but it doesn't mention the kickdowns. There is some kind of thermal regulation on here, so you'll see there's some heat sinks around the outside which do a good job at dispersing some of that heat. There you've got you have the Sofirn and the SP35T, and then you actually got some really quite nice knurling around this here as well. They've also milled this in here as well, so it kind of feels square. It's almost square with rounded corners, and then again a little bit more knurling here as you get round because of the tail action on here to be able to turn it on and off. You will see that there is a secondary button here, which we will get back to in a second. Now I did mention, so this, you do get a USB-C cable with this so that you can charge it. USB charging point is underneath here. If I just lift this up, there is your USB-C port within here. I have tried, yes, you can charge this whilst, or at least you can still use this whilst it's charging. Charging it certainly won't stop any of those functions from working. The cable that comes with this, as you probably understand, will fit in there very easily. I've also tested out 6 other cables and they all fit in fine. It's not proprietary. The only reason that I say that is sometimes, so where you have this alcove that it kind of sits into, sometimes you have USB cables that have a lot of plastic around them and you have difficulties getting them in. No issues, several different ones, and they're fine. I will say what I certainly love about Sofirn is the rubber bungs that they put into these seals. Incredibly well seated, as you'll see as I'm trying to get this out. So this is easily 2 millimeters thick. There's also a lip on the inside towards the bottom of it as well, so you have to make sure that is in there, and when it is seated, it's seated fine. You're certainly not going to have to worry about water getting into it, so much so that you have to make sure you pull on this to be able to get it open. Now the battery that's on the inside, so you screw off the tail end, and then here we have a rechargeable battery. It's a 21700 500 milliamp hour battery from Sofirn. This isn't proprietary. This is just like any other 5000 milliamp hour 21700 battery out there. So if you do have other batteries, because you know 21700, 18650, they're all very common batteries. I have tested this with, I think it was 4. I want to say 4. No, it was 3. So there was this one, and then there was 3 others. No issues whatsoever. They were in and they worked. Because of the tactical side for this, hopefully you'll notice that there is a spring in here within the head unit, which will stop any inertia of the battery moving that way, and there is also a spring here in the tail unit which will stop any inertia of the battery moving that way. The main reason for that is in certain instances, if you do need to strike with this, or maybe even if you've attached this to a firearm, that battery moving forward, the inertia of the battery moving forward, having a spring on both ends, will make sure that you will always constantly have a constant stream, you'll have a constant stream of light. I've just clicked focus then. I do apologise if that's all been out of focus. Hopefully I'll check this whilst we're at home and we're editing. As I tend to do, because I like to do this because it shows how well details like machining is done. So if I push this on now, there's half a turn, there's a absolutely infinitesimally tiny bit of play. There's another half, now there's no play, and we haven't even got to where we're seated on the seal there on the end. The machining on that thread is is excellent. Okay, now going over to the UI, hopefully as you know, oh actually sorry, one thing I forgot to mention is, so you have here on the end, you have these kind of caps that go over. So when you take this out, it's kind of down to a little bit of muscle memory. If you try and operate it so that your thumb goes over these, you have to curl it over and then push down. Whereas if you come in from the right angle, you don't even need to curl over, you can get instant access to that light. That has its advantages and its disadvantages, because it's easier from kind of 50% of the rotation around there. But what it does mean that if you drop this, you're not going to get any negligent kind of turning it on by accident, and it's also going to protect the clicker and the spring that's in there, just in case you are the type of person that does well, yeah, just in case you're the type of person that does drop their light from time to time, so it does protect it. It will tail stand as well, so the small lip that's here and the small lip that's there, if you do it and it's just perfectly on a perfectly flat surface, it will tail stand. No, there's no magnet within here so that you can attach it to something and it will magnetize on. Now getting back to the UI, hopefully you've seen that I've kind of touched on both of these buttons a little bit. Now the main on and off is your button here on the end. So actually let's put this on to a higher mode. So on, off will turn it on and off. You can do a half depress, which will give you kind of will give you a momentary light. You probably noticed then that it went very bright, and that's because I did a double press of that half press, which gives you instant access to turbo, just in case you do want instant access to turbo. In its EDC mode like this, you can't switch between eco, low, medium and high from the tail. I mean, let's take a second. There's a lot of lights that you can all do this from here. However, how many of you down in the comments always use one mode? It's great that you can cycle between all of the modes. However, we all have a favorite mode. We use it all the time. We don't tend to swap between them. That's what this tail switch is for. It's just a simple on and a simple off. If you want to switch between the different modes, you then have this secondary button here, which allows you to then switch between them. So at the moment it's on eco, or it's moonlight mode. Then you've got the low mode, then you've got the medium mode, and then you've got the high mode. But again, I tend to use the medium mode, turn it off, and I'm happy. Some people are like, oh well, you know, I like to be able to. This might not be the light for you. However, for the vast majority of us that just use one mode, I mean, it does exactly what it needs to do. It also helps the fact that if you are attaching this to a light and you've got a rear what's it on here, that you can use this to be able to then switch between the modes if you do want to use it that way. Now there are a few little shortcuts on here if you want. So at the moment it's on the, I think it was on the medium mode, was it? But if I want it so that it comes on instant access onto the eco mode, if I hold down the secondary switch and then turn it on, it will always come on onto the eco mode. And then actually, so the eco mode is one that it won't remember, so that might be just, I suppose you class it as a secondary mode. But once you then then click it off and then click back on again, it will then go back onto whichever mode it was on before, unless that is, so if I put it onto its eco mode now, if I now cycle so that I'm on low, turn it off and turn it back on, it will remember that I'm on low. Now, as I mentioned, so when it is on, if you do a double, if you do a double press and then press it down on full, you can get instant access to the turbo as well. Now, I have mentioned a few times that you do have the option with this. So this, as it stands, this is how it arrives from Sofirn. This is how it arrives out of the box. If you're using this and you want to use this in its tactical mode, you can switch from its EDC mode onto the tactical mode. And the way in which you do that is turn it on and then hold down this secondary button for, I think it's about 3 seconds. So let's put it onto a high mode. So if I hold this down for 3 seconds, you'll hopefully notice in 3 seconds time it will flash. So see that then? Now, with the EDC mode, if low or medium is your mode that you always use the most, then that will always come on. Now that we're in tactical mode, when I click this on, it will always come on to turbo, no matter what. Turn it on, turn it off, it will always come back onto turbo. The secondary tail function will then act as an option between medium or turbo. There's no eco, there's no low, there's no high. It's either, actually, if I turn this off, turbo, and it will always come on to turbo. There's no memory. So if I put this on and go, actually, let's put this down onto medium mode. I'm doing whatever it is that I need to do. It's not going to remember on tactical mode that I was on medium. It doesn't do that, because with tactical mode, it wants to come on to turbo every single time, and that's what the tactical option does on here. It also gives you a little bit of easier access to your strobe. So I can do like a half press, which will give me momentary turbo. But if I do a double press and just keep it on, it will give me momentary strobe. If I do a double press and then click down, it will constantly keep it on strobe. Again, if you're using this for law enforcement, maybe you've pulled up behind a car, you're having a look at the car, whatever it is that you need to do, you then get to the window so that you can talk to somebody rather than blinding them. You might want to drop it down onto medium so that you can talk to them, you can see inside the vehicle. You then, get to the back of the car again, you need to check some other things. You turn it off, you turn it back on again, no matter what, you're always going to get turbo. And then again, if you need to startle someone, you can do a double press and you'll get instant access to that strobe. If you want to then change back to EDC mode, so while it's on, do my long press again. After 3 seconds, it will do a bit of a blink, and we're back now on EDC mode, where it will remember whatever the light level. So we were on medium, now it's on high, now it's on eco again. So I like it on medium, turn it off, turn it back on again. It will always remember that it's on medium. It's a nice setup. It's a very simple setup to be able to switch between them, and it's a great option for people that want just one light that they can use in multiple situations, in multiple scenarios. Yeah, it's really nice. Now, okay, let's fast forward and let's get down to the fishing pond so that we can see how this works in the dark. Well, the sun's down and it is a reasonably light night again, but luckily, because we're working with a lot more lumens tonight, there's plenty here. Now at the moment I've got this on the EDC mode so that we can go through them all from eco, low, medium, high and then turbo. Currently on the eco mode, which is a single lumen, but still plenty of light. It's not as bright as it would appear if we were in a pitch black room or a pitch dark room, but still throws out a pretty decent amount of light. Now to move through these, so you have to use the secondary button on the side. So we've now cycled onto low, which is 100 lumens. Now just in the distance there, as there usually is, that's where the little waterfall is. We've got this tree on the opposite side that's about 10 meters away, and then the opposite side over there is probably about 20-25 meters away. Low on 100 lumens. This is great just for like this, you know, if you're walking the dog and walking the dog around the lake. If I've been down into the woods, 100 lumens for low is, you know, it's perfectly usable. Then do another long press that then jumps from low onto medium. So with jump from low to medium, so this has now gone up from 100 lumens to 500 lumens. So being able to see where the little waterfall there is so much easier. That tree on the opposite side now is fully lit up, and then even onto the far side there now, you should be able, hopefully be able to see those on there, or at least see the trees on the opposite side. I think this might be the best one to show as far as I usually do. So there is a warm spot on there, but the orange peel reflector in this does a very good job of dispersing that. If I hold this outstretched, 45 degrees to the left, 45 degrees to the right. So hopefully you can see on the edge here. So it has a reasonably defined skirt. However, there's still quite a bit of diffusing on the way out onto the outsides, and that was the medium. Now I can do another press, which will then take me up to high, and this is 1,500 lumens. So where were we again? So that the waterfall that's there is so much easier to see. Let's come out onto this little jetty. So that is incredibly easy to see now. In fact, I can see over the waterfall into the top fishing lake. The tree here, it's about 20 meters away, super easy to see. This tree now again is lit up. Looking up into the canopy here, you can see just how easy that is to look through. And then the trees on the opposite side as well. Now, getting through to the turbo, you have to do that double click. And this is your full 3,800 lumens. Look at that. So much easier to see. In fact, the whole lake now, as soon as I'm moving this around, is completely lit up. The trees on the opposite side, you can even see the detail in the water. Hopefully you can pick this on the camera. But the detail in the water, just some of the leaves that just fell off that tree. You can even see the blue in the flowers over there as well, which is beautiful. That tree again. Yeah, so let's cycle through these again. Now pressing the button, or at least pressing the side button, because that was just on turbo, that now drops me down to high, because that was the previous one that I was on before. It will always remember whichever mode it was that you got through to. So again, just cycling through these, we're on low, which is eco, which is 1 lumen, low, which is 100 lumens. Then we go up to medium, which is 500 lumens, high, which is 1,500 lumens. And then if I turn this off, so we can go into turbo, here is your 3,800 lumens. Now, I know I mentioned then turning it off. The only reason that I was doing it that way really was just showing that it can be done through the tail button, which obviously you can't see even though I was moving it out there. But it can also you can also get to the turbo with the secondary function button. So whilst I've used it through this as I've been going through eco, low, medium and high, if I put this down back onto low, if I do a double click of the secondary function button, it does exactly the same, and it will give you instant access to your turbo as well. Then when you press it again, it will then put it back down to whichever setting that was on before, which in this instance was low. Now the SP35T for me is what I feel Sofirn do, and what I think as for a manufacturer, they're actually pretty much at the top of their game of what they are about. And that is, for me, and this is going to sound like an oxymoron, but Sofirn for me are a premium budget company, which again, like I say, sounds like an oxymoron. These lights aren't particularly expensive, they are certainly budget friendly, but what they put into here, these are the features that you expect from premium companies that will charge you 3 or 4 times the amount for these lights. Which, getting back to that original point, is this is why Sofirn do this stuff exceptionally well. You got instant access to whatever you need to do, the ability to switch between these. If you are maybe an on-duty officer and you want to keep the same light and then maybe use it for something different when you're using it at the weekend, the ability to be able to switch between these is great. Maybe you just want to pick something up that you're using for walking the dog, that you want to have that kind of instant whatever you need to do. If the situation arises, then you can switch it over to that. But then you're out at the weekend walking with the kids, doing whatever it is that you need to. You don't want to start startling your kids because they start crying, and yeah, kids. But anyway, you can switch it over onto another mode that's more friendly, more conducive to family environment. There's a lot of options in this, and as I mentioned as well, because this is not something that will break the bank, yes, it's a very good light for that. Now, to help with not breaking the bank, Sofirn have also been good enough to provide me with a with a discount code, which I'll leave in the description below. So if you check that and use the link that's attached to that, then you'll be able to get some more discount off of this to help to save some pennies as well. So I want to say a huge thank you for Sofirn for sending this to me. I also need to, at this point, because it is the correct and right thing to do, I thought I'd made some content on this a few months back and I hadn't. So I've actually had this a little bit longer than I usually do. Sofirn got in touch and they asked, and I just said, I'm ever so sorry. It's completely slipped. I thought I'd made some content. So I just want to say at this point, I want to apologise because it's the correct and it's the right thing to do. Luckily, the guys at Sofirn have been super cool about it and they're like, no, it's cool. We appreciate you're a busy guy. Because, you know. So yes, a huge thank you to them for being so understanding and also for sending this light out to me as well. So I'll leave those links below so that you can see where you can pick one of these up, some more information about it, plus those that discount code. I'll also leave some links to my social media feeds on Moorlander EDC and also my sister channel, Moorlander Tactical. But for now, as always, stay safe, stay Moorlander, and stay EDC. Don't drink a lot of iron brew before you film. It makes you very windy. I think when I said that, a little bit of spittle came out. A little bit of spittle. Now, where was I? And stay EDC with a little bit of a hiccup. I have hiccups. Kind of. Anyway. Wednesday. Is today Wednesday? I think this is going out on a Wednesday. I need to check. But yeah, I hope you're all having a happy hump day. I hope the first 2 days of the week weren't as miserable as they have the potential to have. And I hope the last 2 days of the week, that downward hill into the weekend, or a nice free ride, you just take your foot off the brakes and just coast into the weekend. Because that's what we all deserve. Well, most of us deserve. There's a few exceptions. So yeah. Love you. Stop! Now, is it hammer time or is it collaborate and listen? Which one do you go to? Just curious.